Hey, good evening, everyone. I want to quickly introduce the session tonight. Some of you may have heard about an initiative to add more personalized video feedback in your classrooms. In our new 20 by 3 series of trainings, we are showcasing different video technology tools to help you give feedback to your students. So Mike's presentation tonight, it's just one software option. We'll be covering more in the future. And he's sharing his own personal workflow and what he has found to be best and most effective when he's working with his students. After he presents, we'll have a few minutes of Q&A. And to receive faculty development credit, there is a link in the chat area for a punch card for you to fill out. It will also be emailed to you if you are attending this live. So thank you so much for attending, and now I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Thanks so much.
Well, hello everyone tonight. Welcome to this session on Snagit, and I appreciate you coming out and checking out this technology. Some of you have probably been using this tool for some time perhaps, or perhaps you've heard of it way back in the day when it was a free tool. Tonight we're going to explore just an overview of some of the key features that you might be able to use and apply in your classes. And keep in mind, as Hannah mentioned, this is just one of a few technologies that are available to use for video feedback or screen captures or really anything that you want to put as an artifact for feedback in your classes. And so just keep that in mind as we go through the material. Okay. So Snagit is a screenshot program, of course, that captures video and audio. The nice feature about the nice variety of features for Snagit is that it really does just about anything you can use in terms of video, a little bit of video editing. It does screenshots where you can do some markup on that, and I'll demonstrate that for you. It also does just audio if for some reason you had the need to do just an audio file. And then it does give you some capabilities for doing a little bit of clipping together items or some batch processing, which may not be needed too much. Interestingly enough, this is a TechSmith tool, and if you recognize that name, it's probably because you've used Jing or you've used Camtasia for some time, and they really have a good variety of packages. All of them work together, which is nice, and again, I think it might be overkill to have them all, but it's good to have a variety. And I have some preferences that I'll share with you as we go through the material as well. It does also allow for some links to follow links in web pages, and then as well as capturing data from linked pages, which is quite interesting. Sorry about that. Some features that you may not have been aware of is it's compatible for Mac and PC, which is nice. It does allow you to do some Google Hangout if you use that, and Skype audio recording. It does image capture, as I mentioned, some video capture, mobile device capture, call outs, shapes, and text. And that's quite interesting too. I'm going to show you that, and I think it's some of those particular features I think go far above and beyond what Jing can do if you've been a Jing user for years, and I know I have been. The markup capability in that tool is a little bit less, and frankly the new version of Snagit has me sold on perhaps using this particular tool more so than that one because of just some of the markup or call out capabilities. You can combine and resize images. It has some stamps that are interesting and watermarks. It does some special effects that I wouldn't call them extremely special, but they're there. It does have the ability to maintain a library and do magnification. So if you've ever do a tutorial and you notice how the mouse tracks, sometimes it's nice to have the video zoom in on the mouse, and that's a feature that Camtasia has. So if you're a Camtasia user, you probably know what that one is. I believe they call that smart focus. Unfortunately, it's not always that smart, but you know, with Snagit, it does a pretty good job so far from what I've seen. Also does some webcam recording, which is nice, and then the ability to trim video, which happens especially if you know, you have a dog that barks in the middle of a video, or an explosion goes off in the background, or you never know what could happen. It has the nice ability to go in and just remove little pieces of things in the event you want to trim something out of a recording, and it does it quite quick, and we'll do that as well. How do you get the software? Well, there's a lot of ways to really get it. There is a demo available on TechSmith's website, and it's a 15-day use only, which is not so exciting. Usually you see a 30-day one, and 15 days is just not a tremendous amount of time to work with it. But Journey Ed has it, and I pulled this today, and actually has it for $29.95. And the beauty of that tool is I noticed that it does have the ability to update as it goes on. So if they do any weird updates to it, or something significant even, it will prompt you and it will update that particular version. And that's the electronic delivery version, so you wouldn't get a disk if that's something that you really wanted. And then we're going to jump right in to taking a look at this particular tool. And let me pull this out. So something about this tool that you might recognize. Now I have a Jing also floating in the screen here, just because if you're a Jing user, you'd recognize that little sun and the beautiful little icons that we can quickly grab and do things with. This one also has it. So Snagit has just one that kind of looks like Jing on steroids in many ways. It has a lot of little capabilities you can do right from the menu here. You can send things to Word, send things to your clipboard. I'm going to click the button here in just a moment and just kind of show you how that works. Looking at the interface, I've actually opened up a clip that I've captured, and I'll capture another one in just a moment. But just looking around at the interface just to get familiar with it, it looks very similar to a cross between Camtasia, watered down version of Premiere, if you know Adobe Premiere, and a little bit of timeline editing, and you'll see that down below here at the very bottom of the screen. So this is a clip that I've actually captured, and again, I'll do that in just a moment, but I wanted to quickly show you just down at the very bottom here how the timeline looks a little different than most timelines. If you've used Camtasia, there's usually an area where you can resize elements. This one just has these gigantic buttons that allow you to select a range to maybe cut something out, so you can kind of see it prompting me to cut things out. You won't be able to hear the audio on anything that I'm playing, but I don't think you need to. The beauty of this, and really what this is showing you, is if you do have a clip, for some reason, you know, a dog barks or something explodes at the minute mark, you can kind of see how it tracks the time of where that is, and you can really just listen to it and find it. But it's kind of a nice feature. I was a little thrown off by this when I first started using it because the buttons were so large and they didn't look like anything. But these are actually your clip tools, so you can cut things out of your clip. But let's do a simple capture of something, and I'm just going to capture a screen of a classroom that I have open. And really, I just have an announcement section open, and I'm going to show you how to embed in that. And the reason why I'm using this is just an identical text editor to anything that you'd see in the discussion threads as well. So we have the same capabilities here as we would in a discussion thread. So to capture, I'm simply going to go down, go up to the top here, and it has a little button here, and it's kind of choking because we're broadcasting. I'm going to click that button, and it's going to give me that. If you, again, I will reference Jing a lot because I think a lot of us have been using that. It brings up this little area where I can grab, you know, a section of something. The beautiful thing is if you need a specific size, you'll notice how it's giving me the pixel dimension of the area that I'm grabbing. You may not need that, but I can tell you that's come in handy for me as a person who's teaching multimedia and web design. So when I'm done, I can just let go of the area, and it's thinking. It tells you again the size. You can adjust the size if you need to. You can type it in. You can also restart it, redo the selection in the event that you didn't do the right thing. You also have the ability to just keep grabbing the area should you want to adjust it. Now, the first thing I want to do is there's two options, so it's not too challenging. One of them is I want to do a quick screenshot of that. And once I do the screenshot, it's going to bring it right into the Snagit editor. And I won't go through all of it just for the sake of time, but I wanted to quickly show you some of the markup tools that are in here. You can kind of see on the left-hand side of the screen, upper left, it has just a variety of interesting things. I can select areas, I can add call outs to those areas. I can add arrows, which are very common. You have little drawing shape tools. You've got some stamp tools. So if you want to insert a small graphic to add emphasis on something, you know, it has some really pretty interesting ones here. this would be an area where you're like, hey, look at this, I want you to see this. This would be way above and beyond, I think, in some cases, but you can really mark up something well with some of these tools. I particularly liked the numbers. These number ones were kind of neat because I could actually highlight areas of the screen and place numbers quickly in the event that I wanted to show perhaps a sequence of something, or really just do some numbering that I can really put emphasis on to the students. And there's just a variety of other interesting markup tools here. You can also restart the sequence. Let's say you do something wrong here, and you can also redo that. But it has a variety of really good markup areas. I don't think you'll ever need more than this, especially since the key here is we want to do something where we can give visual feedback to the students quickly, but we want to make it so that it's, it's good visual feedback, but it also needs to be efficient for us to do it. Otherwise, you're spending, hours on one piece of feedback. So we want it to be productive, but we also want it to be engaging. So I think really these are going to be the best tools. It does have some other, numbers and letters, should you want to change that. And so from there, I'll just leave it at that. There's a couple of highlighting areas and shapes areas. I'll throw a line or two in there. So I hope it doesn't explode. It's giving me a little bit of a delay just because we're broadcasting, but very similar to Jing, except for I think it's a little bit more, it's like it's on steroids. Jing on steroids is what I would think this tool is a lot like. From there, you have the ability to output the files. You can export to various places. You can save the file. There's a variety of output options here. We wouldn't be able to get through all of them. But if I wanted to output it to an MP4, which is just a standard format, or a PNG or a JPEG or something like that, you have the ability to do that. And then you could attach it to a discussion thread. Now, there's a lot of ways to do the attachment part. I'm going to do a video, and we'll use the video piece to attach it. But you'll notice that if you're using a Google Drive, if you're using there's just a tremendous amount of areas you can send it to. If you have mobile devices, you can send it to that. Some of this is going to be overkill just for the nuts and bolts of it. So in this case, let's do a new capture, and we'll just do a little bit of a video here. So again, it's going to remind me every time I want to do a new capture that this is here in case I get struck by lightning and forget. And let me grab an area here. It's thinking about it. Typically runs a lot more efficient than this. It's just because we are broadcasting. So I grab an area again that I want. So in this case, the area that I'd be grabbing would be an artifact of a student's artifact, whether they submitted it through a Dropbox or through the discussion thread. You, of course, would just open it and grab that area. And then here I'm going to do the video. You won't be able to hear it, but you get the idea. So I would just begin to speak about the feedback that I want to give to the student, giving them details on their work, praising them, of course, for what they did well, and then giving them some constructive feedback on what it is that they might try. This is a great area too for doing tutorials because you can just demonstrate something to the students. When you're done with it, simply hit stop, and it's going to think about what it's going to do, and it's going to bring that editor back up again in just a moment. Let's give it a second. And there it is. And so here's the video. And let's say, for example, again, back to these giant buttons, I tell you, I don't know why they blow my mind. They're just really enormous for a video editing tool. So let's say, for example, at the the 2 second mark, something happened. I can simply highlight the area I don't want and hit cut, and it would just cut that section out. So that's not very difficult to do, but it's definitely powerful. Once you have the video, you like it, you can do additional editing to it if you need to, but for the most part, let's just use it the way it is. And then so here's where it's got some things that are just quite interesting. I have a screencast account. Screencast accounts are free, and you can sign up. When you get a Jing program, you can sign up for screencast, but when you also get this tool, it'll ask you, do you want a screencast? Do you want to sign up? And it does give you just quite a bit of space for free. And I've set it up already, so I won't go through the process of just entering my username and password that I used when I registered. But it can put a URL on the clipboard. Now, if it does that, let me pull up just a little notepad tool so you can see that quicker. I don't have to open up Brightspace over and over. The idea behind the video feedback now is that we're wanting to see a thumbnail of some kind in there. So previously when you do a URL in Jing, it would just put the text link in there. So sorry, my mouse is hesitating. There we go. Let me bring that up there so you can see what it looks like. So there's the, well, it's not there yet. It's thinking about it. Let's give it a moment. One thing I did notice is that, and it's just a matter of seconds really in terms of difference, is that the upload process and the compiling process for when it's doing a video upload versus Jing is that it is a few seconds slower. You can kind of see what it's putting me through, but I would have already had my account set up, and it's having me log in again, which I had done that just a few minutes ago. Nobody look at my password. So it's uploading it to there now, and it's going to give me a, in this case, as soon as it's ready. Still not ready yet. It's a little slower than Jing. It's waiting for me to give it a break. So there it goes. It's uploading the screencast. Now, once you log in, it's a little faster, depending on the length of the video. So that was a good flavor of what it looks like. So that's what it would give me, is a URL like that, and then I could upload it to the server, or I could paste it in the class. But for the most part, what it's going to do is it's going to output the files for you. So if I just do a file save, it's going to save a MP4 for me, and let's give it a second here. And I'm going to save it to an interesting area. So it's going to create an MP4, and I'm just kind of doing it off the screen here so I can see the file. You'd save the file, of course, to a location that you know where it is. And I've got that MP4 there. Give it a moment. It's thinking. Since we're broadcasting, it's just slower. So in the Brightspace area, I know a lot of us have used this tool right here to include the video pieces. Let's give it a second here. It's outputting. The My Stuff button will allow me to just upload that video right to the area that I want it. And there we go. Let's give it a second. My Stuff is really a great tool for inserting a lot of different types of media, and you don't really have to. You don't have to necessarily make it all. Obviously, you've probably experimented with this, but since I have an MP4 I made, I'll just go to the My Stuff, go to My Computer, and see if we can browse for it. I do apologize for the slowness of this. Let's see here. And we're on the wrong drive. So when I upload this file, it's basically going to put it in the Brightspace area, and there it is. Okay. And I'm just going to hit upload. Let's give it a moment. And this is probably the common process that you'd use. You give it a text link of some kind, description. You can change the width. You can tell it to start playing automatically. I'm just going to delete this when we're done. And so there it is. And that's really, there's the video. It has the player. It has all the fun things that you might need. Not to mention it has a thumbnail view of it, which is really what we're going for, instead of just a text link that opens a video. And then if I were to publish this, you would see it exactly like that. We've got about 2 minutes left for this time segment. So that process right there is really what you would do. You'd create your recording, you'd simply file save, it would create an MP4, and then you go to the My Stuff button in Brightspace. One other element I wanted to tap on, since we have a couple minutes, is I like, it has an embed feature also. If you go put, give me an HTML embed code. The issue with this one is that it sometimes will give you a very large file, very large preview, I've noticed. So unless you know HTML, you might run into some issues with that. But what it's giving me, and I'll show you what the code is, it's giving me all that syntax, but it's writing it to an iframe, which is somewhat of a deprecated tag. I can take that syntax into Brightspace here. If I go to HTML view, which a lot of us, you don't have to do this. I just thought it was an interesting feature. And this is very similar to how you might do a YouTube video. You could just put that right in the area that you want it to be using that particular tool. And let's give it a second, it's thinking. But what it does do is you want to change the dimensions of it because it's going to give you that exact size, which can sometimes be a little big for the Brightspace area. So I know that was a quick overview of this tool. Again, it's pretty simple to use. It has a lot more tools than you'll ever need for it, but essentially experimentation with it I think would be key. It is a rather inexpensive tool, but has just a tremendous amount of features that are I think far above and beyond Jing. And we're going to be doing more with Camtasia in a coming week and Screencast-O-Matic to give you a flavor of what that looks like. And you can kind of compare the differences and see which ones work the best for you. The My Stuff button is really key. But we'll talk about some other options moving forward. Just keep that in mind for now. And I know this was a quick session. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll take a few questions at this point. And I do appreciate you all coming out tonight. And go ahead and post any questions you have in the chat window.